Premier, welcome to the programme.
Thank you, Sarah.
Now, as we saw in that grab from you earlier today, the Whyalla Steelworks had been in trouble for a long time. What triggered the decision now?
Ultimately, Sarah, it was the fact the state government was in receipt of advice from our expert steel task force that made clear that the state of the steelworks was now approaching a point where it could be irredeemable. If we allowed it to continue on the current trajectory where the finances of GFG were compromised so that they couldn't invest in the steelworks, it was actually compromising the ability to make steel in this country. That invited a more drastic response from the government, and we made the deliberate decision to have an intervention. It's not a decision we take lightly, it's unorthodox, but we believe it's fundamentally the right thing to do in the context of steelmaking in this country, which is critical as a sovereign country.
How much is this going to cost the state government, state taxpayers and the federal government and federal taxpayers?
Well, the first thing is, Sarah, and this was critical from my perspective, is that there's no bailout here of GFG. We did not think it would be appropriate for the South Australian government, or even the Commonwealth for that matter, to start to relieve GFG of their obligations. Administration clearly does not do that, they remain. But there is an opportunity here for us to choose to invest in setting up steel production into the future for this country, and that's got to be mission critical. I mean, people need to appreciate that the steel that is made in Whyalla is all of the domestic long steel making capability that we have for the entirety of the nation. There are only two places that can do this, Port Kembla and Whyalla. Port Kembla does flat steel, we do the long product in Whyalla. So whether it be Optus Stadium in Perth or the rail program, the Cross River Rail in Brisbane, or whether it be the Western Sydney Airport terminal, it's all coming from Whyalla. Now, if we lose that as a country, that's more than a problem, that's a big sovereign risk. That invites government support, and I very much look forward to, on the ground here tomorrow, announcing a comprehensive package about how we set up steel for this country into the future.
You know, at the same time, obviously, the federal government would not want to see major layoffs, a large unemployment problem in the town of Whyalla in the mouth of a federal election. How much did that play into your decision?
Look, I think this transcends politics. It's about doing the right thing for the country. I mean, we are the largest exporter of iron ore in the world. We're a major exporter of metallurgical coal. It would be, clearly unacceptable that as a country we didn't have the capability to put the two together and make steel for ourselves. So I don't think that's something that's a necessarily partisan point of view. I certainly hope it's not. But I will say this though. I've been in touch with the Prime Minister about this now, it feels like every second day for a sustained period. He is as engaged on this issue as I think he is on any other major one that matters to the future of the country, and I'm very grateful for his support that I think will be demonstrated in the not too distant future.
How much money did Mr Gupta owe his creditors in South Australia, and who's going to pay those creditors?
Well, we're about to find the full picture of that. We're about to see it all in great detail as a result of the administration process. Korda Mentha, as we speak, are already going to work getting access to those financials in the way that the state government has not been able to. We've had little snapshots and little pictures of how much Mr Gupta owes, but never great clarity. That will just start to change as we get more transparency through the administration process. Having said that though, there has been publicly reported numbers of in excess of $300 million, and we are absolutely of the view that it is not less than that. That's information that's in the public realm, and I am in a position to confirm it is certainly not less than that. And they're dollars and they're numbers, Sarah, but let me tell you, I've spent a lot of time here on the ground in Whyalla in recent weeks, and behind all those figures are a lot of hard-working people who have given everything they've got to steelmaking in this country. They're doing work and not getting paid for it, and that's just not how we operate in Australia, and that's why it was time to take the action we did today.
Let me just ask you this though, because Mr Gupta's company, his companies worldwide have been in trouble for a long time, especially since the collapse of his primary backer, the financial company, Australian company Greensill back in 2021. Has it taken you too long to act on Mr Gupta?
No, you cannot take the sort of action that the South Australian government has undertaken today lightly. You can't do it on a whim. You can't do it just because there's a media storm. You've got to do it because you have the evidence and the justification to do so.
Yes, if I may, Premier, it's not a whim or a media storm. There's been widespread reporting since the collapse of Greensill, their primary backer since 2021. That's a long time.
Yeah. It is indeed, but here on the ground in Whyalla, Sarah, up until recently, people have been getting paid for the work that they're doing. There have been periods where payments have run late, but ultimately they've been getting paid. Workers have been getting paid, but we've started to see that change in recent months where huge lengths in time were elapsing with no evidence of people are going to get actually paid, creditors getting delivered what they are owed by a GFG, and that's what invited a change of response. Of course, we've monitored to all the reports globally, but here on the ground, that hasn't really started to manifest itself into a crisis that necessitates action until recent months.
So to understand you correctly, the situation has sped up considerably in recent months, is what you're saying?
Undoubtedly, yes.
You know, at the same time, there is a question that I guess is being posed in politics in South Australia, which is, did you maintain your faith, as it were, in Sanjeev Gupta to turn the situation around at Whyalla, because he did have a vision that married with yours, which was the production of decarbonised steel in South Australia?
There's no doubt in my mind that Mr Gupta's vision for what can be achieved in Whyalla is the right one. In fact, it's actually material and can be achieved with the appropriate investments at the appropriate times. We just haven't seen the evidence of that manifest itself. Now, a business person or a politician making a promise and not delivering on it, that's one thing, right? But it's a whole different thing again when people stop getting paid for the work that they have done. And that's what warrants this response. That's why we've taken the action as decisively as we have today. But having said that, it also does present an opportunity to not just save the steelworks, but actually to invest to set it up for the future. And that's what I guess I'm most excited about where we are right now at this moment in time. Administration will facilitate the stabilisation of the business, and here on the ground that's material. But if we play our cards right and think this through carefully, there is a big opportunity for the federal government, in conjunction with the South Australian government, to do something quite unique here, because what we have in Whyalla and in the Middlebacker Ranges around it is one of the world's highest quality magnetite resources, an integrated steelworks and a port all together in the same place. That's globally unique, but we've got to realise that and transform that into a new wealth generation opportunity for the nation, which is why there should be active government interest in that possibility. And
just a quick question, is BlueScope Steel a potential buyer for the Whyalla Steelworks?
BlueScope is a high-quality, publicly listed Australian company that has been performing exceedingly well. I very much hope that BlueScope are interested in this. I have reason to believe that they're certainly interested in it. They've released a statement today to say they're monitoring the events in Whyalla closely, and I look forward to that unfolding in practice.
Now, of course, there's big questions here about the future of the steel industry, but as you said earlier, of course, one of the most important things here are the workers and the families of Whyalla who depended on the steelworks. You've been there for a short while today. What's been the reaction to the decision since you've been there?
I'm surprised at the sense of relief that's here. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I'm absolutely at comfort that this is the right thing to do, but you never know how these things are going to play out in the affected community. But there is a genuine sense of relief because they knew better than anybody that the path that they were heading down with GFG wasn't a good one. In fact, it was potentially a very bad one indeed. So now having government play a role, actively getting engaged, and a well-regarded administrator in this country stabilising the business, it provides a degree of assuredness about what their future looks like, and we're very keen to make sure that continues to develop over the days and weeks ahead.
A dramatic day. Premier, thank you very much indeed for joining me at the end of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Cheers.